I have the pleasure and the honor to present you Paddenbroek. I'm so happy it's selected for the Venice Biennale in the setting of the New Together. It's a nature educative center in the outside of Brussels in a small village, Hoik. This is in fact the building where it starts. It was meant to be a new building for different functions, all collected together, especially associated and related with its nature context around it. And this is what we presented to the city. The program is like that, small children coming over to visit, to have one full day in the nature around it. But so many much more other programs has to be included as well. It was meant to be a new building, but we managed to start with the existing as a natural way to start with, not immediately going over to a new building, and on the other hand, by using the existing, getting so much more. Because the program was in fact on one hand functions who has to be related with a kind of fixed temperature, but a lot of other kind of functions, just like the one you saw over there with the children eating a sandwich at noon, did not need a conditioned space. So what the proposal was as next, to present a building where on one hand pieces are very specific related with thermal conditions and a lot of in-between space usable for many other kind of functions who did not need a kind of conditioned space. And in that sense we could create so much more possible square meters for functions we know today but even don't know today. So that means it generates a certain kind of ways of possibilities, open questions for the future as a kind of generosity for the building itself. That leads to, on one hand, a very clear answer to sustainability in starting with the existing, and on the other hand, a very generous answer towards the village to give more square meters than they even ask for. A second thing about that is that you can deal with the kind of other sustainability, because we started the design in relation with an office called Tailleu, who was immediately incorporated in the architectural design to, and finally almost without techniques at the end. So that means we wanted to make a building where in fact techniques to solve problems are not the case over here. I showed you some models in the presentation towards the client, and finally starting taking away what was the extension and was not anymore in a good condition, sometimes keep it as a kind of wall to make a kind of boundary and to sit outside. And coming to the shelter, on top of the old existing buildings, and to create on the one hand the perfect condition for the existing buildings to have the most insulated conditions, and to create an in-between space. An in-between space who is not conditioned and was in fact a very generous open space to be open to different kind of possibilities of use. Of course, with probably in winter time with a small limit in ways of using. On the other hand, so much generous in most of the months of the year. I do walk around the building. Coming to the front is the north. Towards the south we are going down to climb down with the roof. The roof was as close towards the south and is closed with third panels to create all the energy for the building. And once more, what is incredibly important in that building is that we tried to manage to avoid all techniques. So to work from the very start with very start means the architectural design to create the perfect condition that all kind of clear climatization is totally not needed. We opened the red door and entered the building. You see immediately the in-between space, the space in between the buildings. On the left top you see a full open space. I will come back immediately to that. On the right hand you see on the ground floor the offices, and on the top of that a kind of meeting room with a connection with the outside space. And at the end, in the middle, you see the door to go out again. The space in between, techniques in a water tank, as simple as possible, and a stair to go up. The space in between, we are looking here to one of the existing buildings, what is used to make bread, does not need any kind of insulation, and in that sense leaded to a very simplification of, for example, making a window. We make the jump to the offices. Offices are in fact on the ground floor of the main building. The main building, what was related with the old building, 3 different offices who found a relation with its context around it. The space in between, I yet spoke about, there is a distance between the existing and the new, and in that sense create a kind of open circuit, or a kind of open possibility to walk around the existing buildings. Insulated, for example, here by a line towards the inner spaces who need some kind of insulation. We make the jump to the first floor, in fact the roof of the covering of the cafeteria and the sanitary, and once more here you see the link with the outside. Very important for us was that on one hand acoustically the space in between this is enormous good, and on the other hand that a lot of light comes in to create a kind of outside feeling. This together with natural ventilation, and the roof elements go open, on the ground floor sliding doors open, so that you have natural ventilation. Together with the mass of the building you have a summer cooling immediately. And how the old comes together with the new, and how the new shed close to the south makes this kind of new cover of the existing. And the pleasure of detailing, not only the principal concept is important, but also how you construct things till the railing, how the blue was yet presented, and how we connected the yellow railing with the other one. And here you see the relation between the volumes, the space in between, and everything around it. And how you reinforce, for example, a railing or a fence by just making a kind of circle. And ending with a half circle again to avoid that children break something. We go over to the closed box you are looking now, and this is in fact looking back, and this is the meeting room on the first floor, treated with a sus in between the outside and the inside, because we in fact the in-between is the outside. Having a view to the space itself, closing the windows when not needed, and having the relation with its beautiful context. We make the step outside to the back. You see the boundary of the old buildings, and again on the front the relation in the evening with its surrounding. A building who wants to be generous, a building who deals with another way of sustainability, a way of sustainability that starts in the architecture itself and does not need the techniques to solve anything. Thank you so much. Thanks to the organization of the New Together